Morgan Rogers has secured his move to Chelsea in a blockbuster signing. The transfer window is underway. Chelsea have gotten their key figure. The Aston Villa man moves to Chelsea for a borderline Premier League transfer record breaking fee. And it's a big move that has a lot of implications for Chelsea, a lot of implications for Morgan Rogers, a lot of implications for Aston Villa, and a lot of implications on the transfer market as we know it. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. If you're a returning member, welcome back. If you guys are enjoying the content you're seeing on the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Algorithm. Feels like I have to say it all the time. If you guys don't support the channel won't get better. The channel won't grow. So please, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, please engage yourselves. Let's get right back into it. So first thing I want to say with this transfer is, and I want to just caveat this so I don't have to say it in every single video I have to make, because it feels like I'm going to make a lot of transfer videos this summer. The market is absolutely cooked, right? If you believe the market was cooked when Neymar went to PSG or when Mbappe went to PSG, the market is definitely cooked now, because you look at the likes of Elliot Anderson, Sandro Tonali, Mateus Fernandez, all signings that have happened in the last few weeks that I haven't been able to talk about. And now Morgan Rogers. Some of the fees that these guys are going for is genuinely laughable. It is genuinely laughable. I mean, I saw a few weeks ago, Mateus Fernandez going for 85 million pounds. Don't get it twisted. Mateus Fernandez is a good player, but 85 million pounds. And I look at some of these Premier League teams and their obsession with buying players within the league with this idea of they understand the league. They're used to the league. They don't need to adapt. They don't need to, acclimatize to their surroundings. Guys, if you're having to pay 90 million euros or 90 million pounds, or in this case, 120 million pounds, borderline, for, in my opinion, good players. They're not elite. They're not world class. They're not game-changing players. They're good. They're simply just that good. Good to decent players. And you're spending elite level money. Maybe elite level money has changed now. Maybe now elite level money is 200, 250 million. But who in their right mind is going to be spending 200 to 250 million on any footballer nowadays? If anything, they'll just wait for that player's contract to expire and then sign them on a free transfer, which is probably what we're going to start seeing a lot more in future years to come. You look at like Real Madrid signing Kylian Mbappe. Mbappe would have never left PSG for any sorts of transfer fee. At least not any transfer fee that any team would have been actually willing to part with. So it seems like that's probably what the trend is going to be in these upcoming years. You look at the Elise move to Real Madrid. I don't think that move will ever happen because, one, I don't see Real Madrid spending that sort of money. And two, I don't see Bayern Munich selling probably their second best player in their team to Real Madrid, a direct rival for the Champions League. But that's neither here nor there. The market is what it is. An average player is 60 million now. A decent player is 90 million now. A good player is 120 million now. So let's just move past that. What I think about this signing for Chelsea, I think it's a good signing for Chelsea. I'll talk about the good and then I'll talk about the bad. I think Morgan Rogers, you saw it last season and these last few seasons at Aston Villa, ever since his move from Middlesbrough, he's shown promise. He's improved year on year, which is one thing I always like to see in a footballer or an athlete in general. The ability to develop your game year in, year out and show that weaknesses in your game the previous years can be brushed over and can be improved. And Morgan Rogers has done that. He's gone from a very strong, gut-busting player who's great at driving with the ball, moving the ball forward, progressive carries into the opposition's half, and now he's become more of a creator. He still has that progressive carrying in his game, but you're seeing the creativity coming out of him as well. You're seeing the goal side of Morgan Rogers. I think this past season you saw a lot of the responsibility was on him this season to carry that mantle. Ollie Watkins started the season pretty poorly. Morgan Rogers had to be the key man for Aston Villa throughout the season, even with the departure of Marcus Rashford and Asensio, who carried a lot of the responsibility in the attacking areas for Aston Villa. Don't get it twisted. Morgan Rogers had to take that up. John Duran leaving the club, it was on Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins, and the like, as well as Daniel Malin before he went to Roma, to really carry the attacking burden. And Morgan Rogers did that very, very well last season. Aston Villa had a great season under Unai Emery. They were incredibly consistent in the Europa League, went on to win that pretty comfortably in the final against Freiburg, in which Morgan Rogers was one of the key players throughout. And in the Premier League, they finished once again in the top four. And you continue to look at Aston Villa as a side that continue to grow, continue to build, going to be in the Champions League again next season. Of course, he's not going to be a part of that. And now they've lost two of their very, very key players, as well as Luca Digne and Yuri Tielemans and now Morgan Rogers. You don't know whether that's a PSR thing. Is it the player is looking to go to the next level? Is it maybe the team kind of losing that drive to play for Unai Emery? Who knows? Let's see what they do in the transfer window. But I think in the part of Morgan Rogers and Chelsea, I think this is a great signing for them. I think Chelsea are getting a very good player. If you look away from the transfer fee, let's forget the transfer fee for now, because I think if you continue to look at transfer fees in any transfer in modern day football, no transfer will be good in my opinion. But you look away from the transfer fee, I think Chelsea are getting a very good player. You're getting an England international who can score goals, scored 14 of them last season, got, 11 assists, 25 goals and assists in all competitions. You'd hope that he can accelerate that. You'd hope that he can improve on that going to Chelsea, a team that probably likes to keep the ball more, less pragmatic than Unai Emery and Aston Villa under a manager like Xabi Alonso. And I think what this signing does represent to Chelsea fans, and it's something that I've been saying for a long time, Chelsea, I can never back anything Chelsea do in the transfer window, because for me, a lot of the signings they make, they're not signings to actually improve the team. They're just trying to flip money and trying to make money and using the club as this sort of Ponzi scheme to try and improve their profitability. They're not actually trying to become a better footballing team. And it doesn't feel as though they actually listen to their managers and look at what the team actually needs. I feel like Liam Rossinier was a complete scapegoat. And I said it on this channel, when he was hired, that was a completely useless managerial appointment, because we all knew he was going to be gone by the end of the season. His stock was going to take a massive hit, even though he was building something really, really, really promising at Strasbourg. And now nobody's going to touch him ever again. So with Chelsea, you have a manager like Xabi Alonso coming in, and we'll continue to talk about Xabi Alonso as they make more signings and what that team could look like. We saw his time at Real Madrid. It ended really, really, really poorly. Not really due to the performances on the field, but more the political and the morale side of things off the field. The altercations with Mbappe, Vinicius, and the other big players in the dressing room. And now coming to Chelsea, Xabi Alonso has a lot to prove. Not only just whether that time at Real Madrid was a fluke, or that time at Real Madrid was not on him, even though I do believe his time has gone on. You start to look at his time at Real Madrid with a bit more positivity, but also to prove to everybody that that time in Leverkusen wasn't just a one-hit wonder. And it's going to be interesting to see whether he transfers that system from Leverkusen, the three-at-the-back system that he kind of, I won't say threw away or forgot about, but realized wouldn't suit the players that he had at Real Madrid. So coming to Chelsea now, you have Cole Palmer, who plays in those number 10 positions. Morgan Rogers, likewise. Morgan Rogers is in the ilk of these, I don't even know the word to call them, kind of like forwards, where they don't have a particular position. They're not elite in any particular position. Their best position is probably always the number 10, but they have an versatility and the ability to play in other positions, which sometimes drags them to positions where they're probably not at their very best. The likes of Morgan Rogers, the likes of Cole Palmer, the likes of Phil Foden, the likes of Eberechi Eze, Michael Olise before he got his big move to Bayern Munich. Those players who are number 10s but can also do a job in other positions. So with him going to Chelsea, it's great depth for them, whether they want to play him with or and Cole Palmer, with or instead of Cole Palmer. In those double 10 positions, I think he's going to add a lot of dynamism. I think Cole Palmer is that creativity that you need, but Morgan Rogers is probably more direct than Cole Palmer. Probably isn't as good of a creator, but will give you that goal-scoring ability that we've seen Cole Palmer display in previous seasons, but has kind of fallen off in these last few years. So with Morgan Rogers coming in, there's a lot of positives. He's going to bring that progressive carrying of the ball. He's going to be able to play in those double number 10 positions behind the striker. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with their striker. Are you going to continue with a João Pedro? Are you going to continue to trust Leon Delap? Are they going to go back into the market? Nicholas Jackson is coming back into the team. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Will any of those players, somebody like João Pedro, in my opinion, will he go into the number 10 positions as well? Will he be a squad player in those areas of the field, or will they continue to use him as a striker? And that's where I move on to the negatives of the signing. Though I do believe this is a signing that was requested by Xabi Alonso, I look at somebody like João Pedro, as I just mentioned. Could you have not just used him in those positions behind the striker? Because for me, João Pedro is not a striker. He can play as a striker, but his best position is number 10, right? It's the same way you have many players in football that can play in so many positions, and that's how football is becoming now. You need to be a bit more complete. You need to be able to play across the field, particularly in the attacking areas. But somebody like João Pedro, in my opinion, if you want the best from João Pedro, I think you need him to play in those number 10 positions. And I think whenever you have a double 10, you need to have one that's an incredible creator and one who's just hungry for goals. And I think if you had that 1-2 punch of João Pedro and Cole Palmer behind whichever striker you go out and get, I think you could have had something really neat and tidy there. João Pedro is able to run the channels. João Pedro is able to hold the ball up as he showed last season. Joao Pedro is able to score goals. And if you need him to create, he can do that as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Morgan Rogers fits into this team. Will he stifle the minutes of other players who have been in the squad already? I don't think Chelsea will care about that, because if you're spending 120 million on a player, you definitely believe that he should be starting, and you definitely believe that he's going to be a key factor in whatever it is that Chelsea do next season. But I do have to say again, the transfer fee is a lot. It is very expensive. But as I said before, if you continue to look at transfer fees in the modern day age of football, no transfer is going to look good. But it should be interesting to see what Morgan Rogers does at Chelsea. I do expect him to do pretty well. I'm intrigued to see the areas that they play him in. One, as I said before, whether Xabi Alonso will play that back three and have him in a double pivot alongside Cole Palmer, or it's instead of Cole Palmer, will he play in those wide positions where he's kind of playing in the wide areas, but is kind of tucking into the midfield or tucking into the central areas, just as he did as Aston Villa, when you would have, sometimes he'd play on the right, where you have Matty Cash bombing down that right side, or playing on the left-hand side and Luca Digne doing likewise, with John McGinn in the midfield buzzing around. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I do believe Morgan Rogers, I will say this, I think Morgan Rogers is one of those players that you prefer for him to be one of the main men in the team. Whether he will be that in this team, he could go on to be that. But I think a lot of people will still be looking at Cole Palmer as the main guy in this team. Whether they can coexist, we'll have to wait and see. Perhaps Xabi Alonso is going to implement them in a different way that we might not even be expecting. Maybe one of them might even play as a false nine. But I think what Morgan Rogers offers this team is that versatility, is that ability to have quality off the bench if he doesn't start from the very beginning. That ability to play him alongside other great players if he does play. And I think one thing he does bring to this team is a bit of physicality in the attacking areas. Because you look at a lot of the attacking players at Chelsea, in my opinion. I look at someone like Pedro Neto, Garnacho, Jamie Bino Gittins, who else? Mudryk, who's barely played these last few years. Esteval, who's just gotten a big injury towards the end of last season. You'll be hoping he comes back stronger this upcoming season. The only real physical player Chelsea have in the attacking areas is Liam Delap. And Liam Delap, he's physical and he's intense, but he doesn't play with a certain IQ. He doesn't play with a bit of that experience that you'd hope from a player with that much physicality. He's very, very naive. But a player like Morgan Rogers, you've seen how physical he is. He's physical, he's strong on the ball, he carries the ball excellently well, he's an athlete, but he's also got a bit of technicality about him. And you look at those players in the wide areas as well. Neto, Garnacho, those guys are both rubbish, right? They're not good players. Bino Gittins, I think he's a good player, but I just think he hasn't gotten an opportunity. He struggled with injuries, and I think he left Borussia Dortmund way too early. And Esteval as well. I'll be very interested to see where Esteval plays in this team. Will he be one of those double pivots, or double tens, I should say? Or will he be an even wider threat in the right wing back or left wing back position? Or perhaps Xabi Alonso doesn't even play three at the back. Maybe he sticks with the typical 4-2-3-1, and you have Rogers, Palmer, Esteval behind the striker. There's so many things that Chelsea can do. I think that is definitely one positive of this signing, that he's a very versatile player. He can play across the front line, or across the front line right behind the striker, and he will offer you reliability. He's a player who stays fit for a majority of the season, and he knows the league. That's the thing that people continue to mention with players that they sign in the Premier League. He knows the league. He knows how to navigate his way around these stadiums, navigate his way around these games, and you'd hope that it doesn't take him a long time to really acclimatize to Stamford Bridge. I took a while to make this video because there was a lot of murmurs about whether the deal would actually even go through, and then it looked for a long while like he was going to go to Arsenal. I mean, the murmurs about Arsenal had been coming up since even before the World Cup, so I was pretty certain that he was going to go to Arsenal. And then the World Cup starts to fade out, and you get to the semifinal, quarterfinals, and then you start hearing murmurs about Chelsea, and then all of a sudden Chelsea have hijacked the deal for Morgan Rogers, and just like that, you get the "here we go" from Fabrizio. But I think Arsenal, in my opinion, the discussion about Arsenal and Arsenal fans saying they don't really care about the signing and the amount of money that they paid for him, they think it's ridiculous and they shouldn't have paid that amount of money, and they're acting as though they're happy. On one hand, I do believe Arsenal fans should be happy that they didn't sign Morgan Rogers, because in my opinion, Morgan Rogers and Eberechi Eze do very similar things on the football pitch. Though they have different strengths, I do believe at the end of the day, they both do very similar things. They're good at scoring goals. They're not incredible creators in the sense of just creating chance upon chance like a Bruno Fernandes, or chance upon chance like many great number 10s we've seen in the league, Mesut Ozil, Kevin De Bruyne. They're more those number 10s that like to get on the end of things, those number 10s that are second strikers, those number 10s that can play in multiple positions. So I didn't feel the need for Arsenal to really go out and buy him. If it was a good deal, yes, but for 120 million, I think there's a lot more positions in that squad that Arsenal need to address, particularly the wide areas. I look at the left wing position. You've just had Trossard leaving the club. Of course, they just signed Solis, but that cannot be your starting winger for the new season. You better go and buy an elite winger. Get Martinelli out of the club and get an elite winger. So in my opinion, yes, Arsenal will be upset that they lost their signing or lost a marquee signing or a marquee prospect to one of their biggest rivals, arguably their biggest rivals. Well, no, that's probably Tottenham. To lose that to one of your biggest rivals is always going to be frustrating. And to add salt to the wounds, you hear Morgan Rogers talking about, I joined the biggest club in London. That will definitely sting. But I think Arsenal need to be wise. You've just won a Premier League title. You have a lot of money to spend. Mikel Arteta is building something. This is an opportunity to continue to build. This is an opportunity. You've set the foundations to make this a dynasty. Because coming into this new season, there's a lot of uncertainty around the league. Chelsea included, Manchester City, Manchester United. There's a lot of teams, Liverpool. They don't know what they're going to be this season. They either have new managers, new players coming in, big icons leaving the football club in the last few weeks, months, years. They're still trying to figure out what they are going to be in this new upcoming stage of the Premier League era. Arsenal know what they are. So they need to make sure that they continue to build on that and reaffirm themselves as the best team in the league. Because this season, the Premier League is there to be gotten. And they cannot go out making signings that don't benefit them or Mikel Arteta or as a whole the team. But those are my thoughts on the signing of Morgan Rogers to Chelsea. Let me know all of you guys' thoughts down in the comment section down below. What do you make of the signing of Morgan Rogers? What do you think of the transfer fee? What do you think of transfer fees in modern day football as a whole? What do you think about what he will bring to Chelsea? Do you think it's a good signing? Do you think it's a bad signing? Rate the signing out of 10 down in the comment section. Let me know about that and a whole lot more. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, take care of yourselves and goodbye.